West Africa, a land of vast deserts, lush savannas, and mighty rivers. This diverse terrain was more than just a backdrop to history. It was the foundation upon which great civilizations built their prosperity. From the ancient empires of Ghana, Mali, and Songhai to the thriving marketplaces of Jenne and Timbuktu, trade was the lifeblood of this region. And just as modern economies depend on trade networks spanning continents, so too did West Africa flourish through intricate webs of commerce. But what made this region such a powerhouse of trade? The answer lies in its strategic location, a gateway between the Mediterranean, North Africa, and the interior of the continent. The Trans-Saharan trade routes, stretching thousands of miles across unforgiving deserts, connected this land to the wider world, much like today's Silk Road economic belt links Asia to Europe. Imagine for a moment a caravan setting out from the legendary city of Gao. Its destination? The markets of Fez in Morocco. The cargo? Gold, salt, ivory, and cola nuts, precious commodities that fueled economies and built empires. These same trade routes introduced West Africa to Islam, Arabic writing, and architectural styles, forever transforming its culture and society. Fast forward to the present day, and we see echoes of this past in the global trade networks of today. Ports, highways, and digital trade routes serve the same purpose as the ancient paths of the Sahara. The goods have changed. Now we talk of oil, cocoa, and manufactured goods, but the principle remains the same. Economic power flows through strategic connections. The Trans-Saharan trade route, in many ways, was the Silk Road of Africa, a dynamic artery of commerce linking vastly different cultures and economies. Just as the Silk Road connected China to Europe, carrying silk, spices, and technologies, the Trans-Saharan route was the bridge between the gold-rich lands of West Africa and the Mediterranean's bustling markets. It wasn't just goods that traveled along these routes, it was knowledge, faith, and innovation. This was a world where Berber merchants from the north bartered with Malian traders from the south, where goods from distant lands mingled in vibrant markets. West Africa's trade network was more than an economic engine. It was a cultural crossroads, shaping languages, religions, and artistic traditions for centuries. But history is not static. Just as today's global economy constantly shifts, so too did the fate of West Africa's trade networks. The rise of Atlantic trade routes in the 15th century saw the gradual decline of the once thriving Trans-Saharan trade, much like how air freight and digital commerce are reshaping global trade today. Trade is the engine of civilization, and from the caravan trails of the Sahara to the digital highways of the modern age, West Africa remains a key player in the global marketplace. Understanding its past is essential to shaping its future. As trade routes flourished across West Africa, they didn't just bring wealth, they shaped entire civilizations. The power of commerce fueled the rise of some of the greatest empires in African history: Ghana, Mali, and Songhai. These kingdoms became more than just economic powerhouses. They were centers of culture, innovation, and learning, leaving legacies that still echo through time. At the heart of this transformation was the Ghana Empire. Not the Ghana we know today, but an ancient kingdom that ruled the Sahelian plains between the 6th and 13th centuries. Ghana's rulers controlled the flow of gold and salt, two of the most valuable commodities of the medieval world. Its capital, Kumbi Saleh, was a thriving metropolis, its streets lined with bustling markets and grand palaces. But Ghana's legacy was more than just trade. As contact with North African merchants increased, so too did the influence of Islam. By the 11th century, Ghana's elite began adopting Islamic beliefs and practices, blending them with traditional spiritual customs. Sophisticated legal systems emerged, inspired by Islamic jurisprudence, bringing order to a growing empire. Yet, Islam remained primarily a religion of the elite, while the wider population continued practicing their indigenous faiths. Ghana was also a cradle of artistic expression. Gold jewelry, intricate textiles, and masterful sculptures flourished, reflecting the kingdom's prosperity and diverse cultural influences. But as Ghana's power waned, another empire rose from its shadow: one that would take West Africa to unprecedented heights. Mali, a land of gold and grandeur, emerged in the 13th century under the leadership of Sundiata Keita, but it was under the rule of Mansa Musa that the empire became a legend. In 1324, Mansa Musa set out on one of the most extraordinary journeys in history, his pilgrimage to Mecca. Carrying so much gold that its distribution in Cairo devalued the local economy for years, Musa didn't just display Mali's wealth. He established it as a beacon of Islamic civilization. But Musa's greatest legacy wasn't his gold, it was his patronage of knowledge. He transformed Timbuktu into a global center of learning, funding scholars, architects, and theologians. The Sankore University, founded under his reign, became a lighthouse of education, attracting students from across Africa and beyond. Mali also gave birth to vibrant architectural styles, blending Sudano-Sahelian designs with Islamic influences. The Jingwereba Mosque, still standing today, is a testament to this fusion of cultures, its mud brick walls a symbol of both artistic ingenuity and spiritual devotion. Yet, as Mali's golden age faded, a new empire took its place, one that would refine and expand this legacy of knowledge and governance. The Songhai Empire, rising in the 15th century, took everything Mali had built and elevated it to new heights. Under the leadership of Sunni Ali and later Askia Muhammad, Songhai expanded its borders, mastering the art of governance and military conquest. But Songhai's true strength lay in its intellectual dominance. Islamic education flourished, and Timbuktu's scholars became some of the most respected in the Islamic world. Ahmad Baba, a renowned historian and jurist, wrote extensively on law, philosophy, and governance, leaving behind a wealth of manuscripts that continue to inspire scholars today. Literature and poetry thrived, capturing the essence of life in Songhai, its struggles, its triumphs, and its deep connection to faith. The empire's leaders ensured that Islamic law and administration remained at the core of governance, refining systems of taxation and justice. But, as with those before it, Songhai's dominance eventually faded. The invasion of Moroccan forces in 1591, armed with firearms, shattered the empire's military strength. And with its fall, a golden era of West African civilization came to an end. Yet, the legacies of Ghana, Mali, and Songhai live on, in the resilience of West African culture, in the enduring scholarship of Timbuktu, and in the echoes of their trade routes, now mirrored in modern commerce. The story of these empires is not one of the past alone, but a foundation for the future. Trade was the lifeblood of West Africa's great empires. From the reign of Ghana to the golden age of Mali and the dominance of Songhai, commerce connected people, ideas, and cultures. But these trade networks were not isolated. They were part of a much larger global web of commerce, shaping economies far beyond the borders of West Africa. At the heart of this system lay the Trans-Saharan trade route, a vast and demanding pathway that linked West Africa to the great markets of North Africa, the Middle East, and beyond. But West Africa was not alone in its reliance on trade. Across the world, similar networks flourished, each with their own challenges and riches. The Trans-Saharan trade route and the Silk Road were among the most significant trade networks of the medieval world. Both served as arteries of commerce and cultural exchange, yet they differed in geography, the goods they carried, and the societies they connected. West Africa's traders specialized in gold, salt, ivory, cola nuts, and textiles, commodities that were vital to the Mediterranean and Islamic economies. In return, they imported horses, glassware, ceramics, and spices from North Africa and beyond. The Silk Road, on the other hand, carried silk, spices, paper, and ceramics from China to the Middle East and Europe, playing a crucial role in spreading technologies like printing and gunpowder. While the Silk Road facilitated the spread of Buddhism, Confucian thought, and artistic traditions across Asia and Europe, the Trans-Saharan trade route helped expand Islam across West Africa. Mosques, legal systems, and centers of learning flourished in places like Timbuktu and Gao, mirroring how Buddhist monasteries and Confucian academies rose along the Silk Road. But while the Silk Road was largely dominated by land-based trade through multiple intermediaries, the Trans-Saharan trade relied on powerful West African empires that regulated and protected commerce. The kings of Ghana, Mali, and Songhai controlled and taxed the trade, enriching their capitals and ensuring stability for merchants. This centralized control helped maintain economic prosperity for centuries. Yet, West Africa's trade networks were not confined to desert caravans alone. There was another critical artery of commerce, one that did not cut through the sands, but instead flowed through the heart of the region itself. The Niger River was the beating heart of West African trade. Just as the Nile sustained ancient Egypt and the Ganges fueled Indian civilization, the Niger provided a natural highway for commerce, connecting distant regions in ways land routes could not. This mighty river made it possible to transport goods like grain, fish, pottery, and cloth, linking farmers, artisans, and traders from the interior to the larger Trans-Saharan trade network. For merchants, the Niger was a faster, safer alternative to the harsh desert routes, allowing goods to flow between villages, cities, and empires. It was no coincidence that some of the most powerful commercial hubs of West Africa emerged along the banks of the Niger. These cities became crossroads of trade, culture, and scholarship, growing into some of the most influential centers of the medieval world. Few names evoke the grandeur of West African trade more than Timbuktu. Located near the Niger River, it was more than a city of commerce. It was a hub of scholarship and intellectual exchange. Scholars from as far as Egypt and Persia traveled here, bringing with them knowledge of medicine, astronomy, and philosophy. Its famous libraries, filled with thousands of manuscripts, made it one of the greatest centers of learning in the Islamic world. Jenne, another jewel of West Africa, thrived on its strategic location and architectural splendor. The Great Mosque of Jenne, constructed of mud and timber, remains a marvel of engineering and a testament to the city's role as a cultural epicenter. Like Timbuktu, Jenne's economy flourished through trade, linking the river communities with the Trans-Saharan routes. And then there was Gao, the capital of the Songhai Empire. As the empire expanded, Gao became the nerve center of commercial activity, teeming with merchants from Morocco, Egypt, and beyond. Salt caravans, laden with slabs of this white gold, arrived from the north, while gold traders from the south sought fortune in its markets. These cities thrived because of their strategic locations, acting as bridges between cultures, economies, and civilizations. Just as modern global cities like Shanghai, Dubai, and New York dominate world trade today, so too did Timbuktu, Jenne, and Gao shape the economic landscape of their time. The great trade networks of West Africa may have faded with time, yet their influence endures. Today, as highways, railways, and digital platforms redefine commerce, West Africa continues to stand at the crossroads of global trade. For centuries, the trade networks of West Africa sustained powerful empires, shaping economies, cultures, and societies. Timbuktu, Jenne, and Gao were not just trading hubs, they were the beating heart of a vast commercial network that connected the region to the world. But history is never static. Just as trade routes had once fueled the rise of these empires, their decline would come with the shifting tides of global commerce. For generations, the Trans-Saharan trade route had been the region's primary economic artery. Gold, salt, ivory, and textiles moved across the desert, sustaining the great empires of Ghana, Mali, and Songhai. But by the 15th century, the world was changing. European powers, driven by a hunger for wealth and new markets, turned their eyes toward the Atlantic. The opening of transatlantic trade routes reshaped the dynamics of commerce. West African goods, once transported through the Sahara to Mediterranean markets, were now redirected toward European ships along the coast. The once thriving desert trade began to wither as gold, slaves, and other commodities were funneled into the expanding transatlantic economy. This shift crippled the Trans-Saharan trade, weakening the empires that had depended on it. Without their control over commerce, Mali and Songhai found themselves vulnerable, besieged by external invaders and internal strife. The Moroccan invasion of 1591, armed with firearms against Songhai's traditional warriors, marked the final blow to West Africa's golden age of trade. But the transformation did not end there. By the 19th century, European colonization had redrawn the map of Africa. Colonial powers disrupted indigenous trade networks, restructuring economies to serve European interests. The once thriving gold and salt trade was replaced by cash crops, cocoa, cotton, and palm oil, grown to fuel industries overseas. The challenges faced by West African empires in adapting to shifting trade routes mirror the struggles of nations today in an increasingly globalized economy. In the medieval era, failing to adjust to changing trade patterns led to economic decline. Today, countries that do not adapt to technological advancements, supply chain disruptions, or global trade shifts risk the same fate. Take, for example, the rise of China as a manufacturing giant. Just as transatlantic trade once overshadowed Trans-Saharan routes, digital commerce and automation are transforming the way global trade operates today. Nations that fail to integrate modern infrastructure, digital trade platforms, and global partnerships risk economic stagnation. West Africa today stands at a crossroads. While it no longer dominates global trade as it once did, the legacy of its ancient networks continues to shape its economic trajectory. The same strategic locations that made cities like Timbuktu and Gao flourish still hold immense potential. Only now, instead of camel caravans, it is highways, railways, and ports that connect Africa to the world. West Africa's historical trade routes have not vanished, they have evolved. Today, the region is a key supplier of natural resources, with exports of gold, oil, cocoa, and bauxite fueling global industries. Just as Mali's gold once flowed to North Africa and Europe, Ghana's modern gold mines now supply international markets. Moreover, digital trade is reshaping the landscape. E-commerce, fintech, and mobile banking are providing new opportunities for West African entrepreneurs, echoing the commercial vibrancy of the region's past. The spirit of innovation that once fueled Timbuktu's markets is now driving startups in Accra and Lagos. For West Africa to fully reclaim its economic potential, infrastructure must catch up with ambition. Just as the Silk Road is being reimagined through China's Belt and Road Initiative, there is growing momentum to reconnect Africa's trade routes. West African leaders are investing in transportation corridors that will link coastal ports to inland cities, much like the Niger River once did for ancient trade. Railways, highways, and expanded ports promise to revitalize regional commerce, making it easier for businesses to move goods efficiently. Regional organizations like ECOWAS, Economic Community of West African States, are also pushing for greater economic integration. By reducing trade barriers and fostering cooperation, West Africa has the potential to become an economic powerhouse, much like the European Union or ASEAN. The history of West Africa's trade is not just a story of the past, it is a guide for the future. The same principles that once made Ghana, Mali, and Songhai thrive, innovation, connectivity, and adaptation, remain critical today. Trade has always been the engine of civilization. And just as the Saharan caravans once shaped history, the choices made today, investments in infrastructure, technology, and regional cooperation, will determine West Africa's economic future. West Africa has long been a land of commerce. From the camel caravans of the Trans-Saharan trade routes to the mighty merchant empires of Ghana, Mali, and Songhai, the region has thrived on trade, innovation, and adaptation. But today, in the age of globalization and digital commerce, the nature of trade is changing once again. At the heart of modern West African trade lies regional cooperation. The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, plays a crucial role in fostering economic integration, reducing trade barriers, and promoting cross-border commerce. Established in 1975, ECOWAS has worked to create a single market, much like the European Union, where goods and services can flow freely across 15 member states. Through trade agreements and policies, ECOWAS has helped reduce tariffs and customs delays, allowing businesses to expand beyond national borders. Yet, challenges remain. Bureaucratic inefficiencies, inconsistent regulations, and inadequate infrastructure still hinder trade growth. However, the goal remains clear: to unify the region economically and strengthen its position in the global market. Globalization has reshaped trade worldwide, and West Africa is no exception. As international markets become increasingly connected, the region faces both opportunities and challenges. On one hand, globalization has opened doors for West African exports, with cocoa from Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire, oil from Nigeria, and textiles from Senegal reaching markets across Europe, Asia, and the Americas. These industries generate billions of dollars in revenue and provide employment for millions. However, with increased competition from global markets, local industries struggle to compete with cheaper imports. Many West African manufacturers find themselves undercut by mass-produced goods from China and Europe, making it difficult for local businesses to thrive. Additionally, bureaucratic hurdles and outdated regulations make it difficult for small businesses to access international markets. Unlike major economies with efficient supply chains and robust logistics, West African traders often face delays, high costs, and inconsistent policies that slow growth. Yet, opportunities lie in adaptation. As with the ancient empires that adjusted to shifting trade routes, today's West African nations must embrace innovation and modernization to remain competitive. Technology is transforming trade in West Africa, breaking down traditional barriers and creating new opportunities for entrepreneurs. One of the most significant developments has been the rise of e-commerce, digital payments, and mobile banking. Platforms like Jumia and Konga have revolutionized shopping, allowing consumers to buy and sell goods online without needing physical storefronts. E-commerce is expanding access to global markets, giving West African businesses the ability to reach international customers directly. Mobile banking and digital payment systems have also played a key role in modernizing trade. Services like M-Pesa, Wave, and MTN Mobile Money enable cashless transactions, making it easier for small businesses to operate without relying on physical currency. In a region where traditional banking services are often limited, fintech innovations are bridging the gap, providing access to credit, savings, and secure transactions. The rise of blockchain technology is also making waves, providing secure and transparent transaction records for businesses. By reducing fraud and increasing trust in online commerce, blockchain has the potential to streamline trade processes and improve efficiency. However, challenges remain. Internet access and digital literacy vary widely across the region, and without greater investment in affordable connectivity and digital education, millions of potential entrepreneurs remain locked out of the digital economy. For West Africa to fully capitalize on its economic potential, modern infrastructure is essential. Historically, trade relied on rivers, camel caravans, and merchant networks. Today, it depends on highways, ports, and railways. Governments across the region, in partnership with foreign investors and development banks, are investing in transportation networks to facilitate faster and more efficient trade. Projects like the Lagos-Abidjan Highway, which aims to connect 5 major West African economies. The West African Rail Loop, designed to improve regional trade by linking landlocked nations with coastal ports. Port expansions in Ghana, Nigeria, and Senegal, increasing capacity for international shipping. These projects are critical to reducing transportation costs and boosting competitiveness. A shipment that once took weeks to move by road could soon take days by train or hours by air, dramatically increasing trade efficiency. However, corruption, bureaucratic inefficiencies, and political instability still pose major challenges. Many projects face delays and funding gaps, preventing them from reaching their full potential. For West Africa to thrive in the modern global economy, leaders must prioritize transparency, efficiency, and regional cooperation. The history of West Africa is one of commerce, adaptation, and resilience. From the gold-laden caravans of the Sahara to the high-tech entrepreneurs of today, trade remains the lifeblood of the region. The challenges of the past, shifting trade routes, external pressures, and economic disruptions, are the same challenges of today. But West Africa has always found ways to adapt and grow. With regional cooperation, technological innovation, and modern infrastructure, the region is poised for a new era of economic transformation. The road ahead is filled with opportunity. The spirit of Timbuktu, Gao, and Jenne lives on, not in camel caravans, but in digital commerce, high-speed rail, and global markets. The next great chapter in West Africa's trade story is being written today.